Season 5 kicks off with a high-stakes scene as two mysterious figures suddenly appear in the sky with a clear intention of conquering the entire world. Humanity's supposed champion, Zhou steps forward to challenge these intruders, but the overwhelming pressure they radiate is so intense it literally forces him to hang his head in shame. Just at that desperate moment, Erha arrives just in time to give Zhou a serious warning, telling him that these are actually reincarnated demon infants, and he doesn't stand a single chance in a fight against them. After delivering that grim news, the dog immediately reverts back to its original powerful form to join forces with Wang Ling and take on that bratty little girl. As the battle erupts, the subordinate and Wang Ling both lunge forward with such incredible force that the city below begins to crumble instantly. The young girl pulls out a bamboo copper-style gadget, much like something out of Doraemon, and unleashes a massive barrage of bullets at Wang Ling. But our hero dodges every single one with total ease, and even the henchman's sneaky surprise attack fails to land a hit. Wang Ling fires back at the duo with a lethal energy blast, though the subordinate manages to block it just in time. After intense back-and-forth exchange, both sides decide to stop holding back and prepare their ultimate finishing moves. Down on the ground, Wang Ling's parents are shouting for him to go easy, reminding him that a big brother should always let his little sister win. It turns out this whole epic clash is actually just a sibling rivalry between the children of that very household. When those two massive energy spheres collide, it looks like the end of the world, but that apocalyptic sight is actually what wakes Mother Wang from a truly terrifying nightmare. Seeing his mother looking so exhausted, Wang Ling decides to take action and asks his girlfriend to book a medical appointment at the most exclusive VIP hospital available. Thanks to the high-level connections of the wealthy young heiress from the Sun family conglomerate, the whole Wang family gets to relax in a luxurious VIP suite stocked with some seriously high-end food and drinks. Despite the comfort, Mother Wang is visibly anxious. Even though this isn't her first pregnancy, she's genuinely worried that the nightmare she had yesterday might actually come true. Meanwhile, little Erha is sitting there with a look of pure disdain on his face, clearly looking down on these ordinary human doctors as if they haven't got a clue about how the world really works. While everyone else is busy consulting with the medical staff, Wang Ling's attention drifts toward a nearby bookshelf. Using his god-tier cheat abilities, he easily memorizes every single book in the collection in an instant. Also, he can prepare himself to be the best possible big brother that he can be. Right at that moment, Sun Rong arrives with Wang Ling's close circle of friends to offer their congratulations on the upcoming arrival of his baby sister. Seeing Chen Chao getting a bit too enthusiastic with his congratulations, Sun Rong has to step in and remind him that they're actually there to do some volunteer work. The area is crowded with children coming in for health screenings, as these results will serve as a crucial factor for their admissions into the next level of school. You can see the disappointment written all over some kids' faces when their test results don't meet their expectations. Then there are others who display overwhelming power, like this one massive kid. He's only 8 years old but already weighs a staggering 260 kilograms. However, the one who truly steals the show has to be the young boy Xiao Ming. His parents are total show-offs, bragging about how their son reached the 7th level of the chi refining stage at such a young age. And he even walks around with a group of lackeys like some pint-sized dominant CEO. Just as predicted, Xiao Ming's impressive results draw a massive amount of attention from everyone in the vicinity. His mother is laughing her head off, loudly boasting to anyone who will listen about how incredibly talented her son is. Even Erha has to admit that this kid is pretty overpowered for his age, thinking that if Xiao Ming weren't sharing a world with a monster like Wang Ling, he might actually have a chance to shine. At that moment, Xiao Ming accidentally runs into Wang Ling. From his arrogant perspective, Wang Ling is nothing more than some loser kid who just lost a batty of wits to him. He takes the opportunity to mock Wang Ling with a few choice words, which honestly just makes Wang Ling's friends cringe in embarrassment for him. Out of all the people to mess with, this kid had to pick the absolute top-ranked player on the server. Once the checkup is finished, Xiao Ming struts away with his head held high, trying to show all those other kids exactly what a true genius looks like. Noticing that Mother Wang also wants to check on the baby's condition, Chen Chao steps in to help her fit a monitoring device around her round, pregnant belly. The second the charging cable is plugged in, the sound of the baby's heartbeat suddenly transforms into a rhythmic musical masterpiece that instantly draws every single eye in the room toward Mother Wang. Even people who have lived for decades and seen it all have never heard a heartbeat that sounds like a catchy pop track, and the crowd is left completely stunned. In the blink of an eye, the entire hall starts swaying and grooving along to the beat of the unborn baby's rhythm. This musical display leaves Xiao Ming absolutely fuming with jealousy because he's being completely upstaged by a baby who hasn't even been born yet. Seeing the spectacle, Mother Wang's tears start flowing like a river, realizing that having a baby who is this powerful and healthy might actually be a bit of a headache rather than a blessing. Meanwhile, a pair of mysterious strangers are secretly monitoring the entire crowd from the shadows. Their targets seem to be children with exceptionally high spiritual power, likely to serve some sinister plan regarding an upcoming secret realm. The short squad leader barks out orders to his subordinates to set up a perimeter outside while he personally goes in to snatch that Xiaoming kid. After having his spotlight stolen by a fetus, Xiaoming is desperate to reclaim his dignity, so he steps up for the spiritual power test with a vengeance. The moment his hand touches the orb, a massive wave of green energy erupts across the stage, giving his mother a huge reason to beam with pride in front of everyone. While the thick green smoke from Xiaoming's display is still swirling around, the squad leader makes his move to kidnap the boy under the cover of the chaos. However, the blatant killing intent radiating from him is immediately picked up by Wang Ling's sharp senses. Yet, our hero doesn't act right away. He actually waits until Sun Rong gives him the go-ahead before he dares to make a move, mostly because he's worried about accidentally trashing the hospital's expensive flooring. Meanwhile, the spiritual power test for the baby in Mother Wang's womb is still going strong. In a sudden flash, a brilliant, blinding radiance engulfs the entire room, leaving everyone absolutely speechless with awe. As for Xiaoming, he is absolutely livid at being outshined again. The sheer amount of spiritual energy being released by the baby is even more intense than what Wang Ling himself produced back in the day. Realizing that things are spiraling out of control, Wang Ling decides to cast a memory-wiping spell on the entire crowd. However, he purposefully leaves Sun Rong's memories intact because of the special bond they share, known as the Great Covenant. While the crowd is in a state of confusion, the squad leader tries to pull a golden cicada shedding its skin trick to escape. But Wang Ling's expression says it all. "You're not going anywhere, kid." With a thought, he commands his sword spirit to hunt down the leader and, while he's at it, wipe out their entire hideout as well. Even though Wang Ling's previous strike seemed simple, it carried a grievous wound effect that prevented the villain from regenerating his health. The bad guys are currently lamenting their failure to capture a decent target, totally oblivious to the fact that they are about to become the hunted ones. Desperate to hit his year-end performance targets for the Great Spirit Lord, the squad leader decides to pivot his focus and target Wang Ling's mother instead. He's worried that if word of his failure gets out, other rival squads will swoop in and steal his prey. The two of them fly back to their base to regroup and plot their next move, completely unaware that the sword spirit is tailing them like a silent shadow. Once the enemy's headquarters is pinpointed, Wang Ling makes sure they are permanently logged out of the Earth server in a heartbeat. Back at the nursing home, late into the night, poor Xiaoming is still sitting outside looking totally dejected as he waits for his results. He's incredibly disappointed that he couldn't find out exactly how he performed during the test. Noticing the boy's sadness, Sun Rong walks over to offer some comfort, basically telling him, "Hey, don't feel bad for losing to someone who's basically using cheat codes." To cheer him up, she gives Xiaoming a small statue of the city's great hero, whom the boy absolutely idolizes. Clinging to the statue, Xiaoming's spirits seem to lift instantly. He grips the gift tightly in his hand, making a silent vow to work his absolute hardest to chase down and achieve his ultimate dreams. In episode 2, the Sword Saint is feeling curious about the current mental state of Chen Nan, so he pays a visit to the eerie Shanghai demon prison to check on his junior brother. This place is home to countless demons and monsters possessing terrifying levels of power, but every single one of them is kept firmly in check by the prison's ironclad security systems. The defenses are upgraded every single year, now featuring a soul transformation level intelligent gateway that's so advanced, not even a fly could slip through unnoticed. At the very end of the long corridor lies the high security cell dedicated specifically to Chen Nan. Xuan. As soon as the Sword Saint opens the door and steps inside, he is genuinely shocked to see how gentle and almost adorable his junior brother looks now. The look in the man's eyes seems far clearer and more serene than ever before. The warden suggests that Chen Nanchen might have temporarily managed to suppress his inner demons, but because his cultivation techniques are so dark and unorthodox, he still has to be kept in solitary confinement. One tiny slip-up and those inner demons would definitely come roaring back. The warden initially considered putting Chen Nanchen in a heaven-grade cell due to his overwhelming power, but that area is currently housing someone who is so incredibly dangerous that just being near them would be enough to trigger a relapse in Nanjuan's psyche. After hearing this, the Sword Saint nods in solemn agreement, remembering all too well how much blood, sweat, and tears it took for him and the others to capture that individual years ago. Switching gears over to Wang Ling's squad. This time around, the principal has assigned the group a very special mission. They need to figure out how to escape from a high-tech, secret chamber. The testing ground is none other than the Songhai Demon Prison itself, with the goal being to pressure test the structural integrity of the new cell systems. The principal has given them the green light to use any means necessary to break out, including full-on brute force. Upon hearing this, everyone in the group starts sweating bullets because they know that if Wang Ling accidentally loses control, the entire prison could be leveled to the ground in a heartbeat. However, Wang Ling seems completely preoccupied with something else entirely. Something that's way more important than the task at hand. The real reason for his distraction is that earlier this morning, his parents pulled him aside for a serious chat and entrusted him with a massive, top-priority responsibility. Getting back to the mission, the 6 members of the group are split into 3 separate teams. Chen Xiao and Guo Hao are visibly shaking in their boots, looking absolutely terrified as they set foot inside the prison for the very first time. The moment a surveillance robot pops up, the 2 of them panic and clutch onto each other for dear life. Seeing this display of cowardice, the warden starts to seriously doubt the capabilities of these students and turns to the Sword Saint to ask if these kids can actually contribute anything useful to the security audit at all. After all, the Songhai Demon Prison has been reinforced for hundreds of years and now features cutting-edge cultivation technology integrated with the most advanced AI algorithms. Because of this, the warden confidently declares that if even one of the 3 groups manages to break out of the prison, he'll happily step down from his post and resign on the spot. In a different wing of the facility, Sunrong is actually having a great time since she's been paired up in the same cell as Wang Ling. Just as she's savoring this rare moment of quality time, the butler robot WAS suddenly appears, introducing itself as the face of the Songhai Intelligent Defense Network. The butler robot boldly announces that it will use every resource at its disposal to keep them from escaping the cell. However, Wang Ling doesn't seem even slightly bothered by the threat, as his mind is still completely occupied with that mysterious mission his parents gave him first thing in the morning. Seeing his distant look, Sunrong starts to get a bit worried, even wondering if his seal might have accidentally broken or something. But her concerns take a funny turn when a bag of snacks suddenly appears on the floor. Wang Ling is immediately mesmerized by it, and walks over to pick it up without a single moment of hesitation. In the blink of an eye, a heavy iron cage materializes out of thin air and traps him inside. Horrified, Sunrong immediately tries to use her skills to break him out, but the prison is equipped with state-of-the-art spirit-dampening technology that leaves her powers completely neutralized. Quite the opposite of Sunrong's frantic worrying. Wang Ling is just chilling inside the cage, casually munching on his snacks as if he were on a picnic. Still, Sunrong is internally screaming with anxiety, knowing that if they don't get Wang Ling out of there soon, he might get annoyed enough to accidentally turn the entire demon prison into a pile of rubble. Meanwhile, in another part of the facility, Chen Xiao and Guo Hao are desperately trying to find a way to pop their cell door open so they can regroup with the rest of the gang. Since their spiritual power is being suppressed, Chen Xiao tries to get creative by using the ambient flames around him to boost his strength. Unfortunately, since his cultivation level is only at the foundation establishment stage, his latest move completely backfired, with the door reflecting the impact and leaving both of them in a world of hurt. Noticing their morale is hitting rock bottom, the butler robot decides to offer them a different path, solving a super complex math problem. It's so difficult that even the group's resident genius, Guo Hao, finds himself completely stumped. At the same time, in yet another sector, Xiaowu and Erha are relentlessly battering the iron door in front of them. However, the door is made from a special self-regenerating material that basically shrugs off their attacks like they're nothing. Having no other choice, Erha hops onto Xiaowu's head and switches into a full-blown cannon mode, waiting to build up enough spiritual energy to blast the door into oblivion. But right at the climax, Xiaowu gets suspicious that Erha is trying to prank her and suddenly strikes him, knocking the poor dog out cold instantly. Back in the monitoring room, the warden is feeling smug, convinced he's about to win his bet, when suddenly, loud alarms start blaring, signaling a major jailbreak in the Earth-grade prison sector. Sensing that something is off, Wang Ling decides he's done playing along, shatters his iron cage, and simply walks out. The butler robot starts panicking at the sight, but the show is just getting started. With nothing more than one simple, effortless move, Wang Ling completely obliterates the massive iron gate, totally ignoring that ridiculous math problem. He's actually about to send the butler robot to the scrapyard permanently, but luckily Sunrong steps in just in time to stop him. She tries to convince the robot to just play dumb and look the other way so Wang Ling can cut loose and use his powers without having to worry about witnesses. Terrified for its digital life, the butler robot immediately formats its own memory banks to ensure its survival. Once outside, Wang Ling is quickly spotted by the automated sentry robots. After a quick data scan, the robot concludes that he's just a lonely soul with a meager 5 points of spiritual power, whose body is full of weaknesses and who likely feels lonely and stressed out late at night without anyone to talk to. Ultimately, the robot labels Wang Ling as a pathetic, weak target that can be neutralized with a single strike. However, Wang Ling completely ignores the warning. He just stands there, taking the attack head-on, which causes the robot system to suffer a massive fatal error because it simply cannot calculate or comprehend Wang Ling's true power. Then, with one quick and powerful kick, he sends the robot flying into the distance. Meanwhile, back in his cell, Chen Nanxian, who was actually feeling pretty good and planning to use the chaos to stage his own escape, suddenly senses a terrifyingly familiar spiritual aura. Gripped by pure, unadulterated fear, he immediately retreats, slams his cell door shut, and hides in the darkest corner he can find, too scared to even move a muscle. Elsewhere, after wandering around for a bit, the rest of the gang finally manages to regroup in one piece. Even though he's still trembling with fear, Chen Chao tries his best to act like a tough guy, walking up to comfort Wang Ling in a way that's as awkward as a toddler trying to teach their parent how to spell. He tells everyone they have absolutely nothing to worry about. Now that the whole squad is back together, they all make a move toward the final exit to make their grand escape. Working in unison, they push open the doors and successfully step out of the prison grounds. Staring up at the vast open sky, a sudden realization hits Wang Ling. He's finally come up with the perfect, meaningful name Nunan for his baby sister, who is about to be born. It's only then that Sunrong realizes the real reason Wang Ling has been acting so spacey all day. It wasn't the prison break mission on his mind at all, but rather the heavy responsibility of choosing a beautiful name for his new sibling. Episode 3 kicks off in a secretive lair where the Great Spirit Lord is absolutely losing his mind with rage. Having just learned that the massive stockpile of 5 elements spiritual energy he spent years gathering was wiped out in an instant. Based on the preliminary investigation from his subordinates, it seems this disaster is directly linked to the total destruction of their Southern Branch headquarters just yesterday. The fact that such a massive piece of news was reported so late makes the Spirit Lord explode with fury, demanding to know why his minion only just decided to tell him now. Shaking with terror, the henchman explains that according to the Night Shadow Crisis Management Handbook, these types of matters have to go through a rigorous approval process across multiple departments before they can finally reach the boss's desk. Hearing this, the Spirit Lord is beyond annoyed and demands to know who on earth came up with such a stupidly bureaucratic system. Much to his embarrassment, he quickly realizes that he was actually the one who suggested it in the first place. To cover up his intense embarrassment, the Spirit Lord decides to just execute the poor, unfortunate henchman right then and there. In his uncontrollable rage, he screams orders for all his remaining followers to launch a full-scale investigation and find out exactly which gutsy individual dared to blow his hideout to smithereens. Right on cue, the leader of the Rat Squad shows up to deliver some fresh intel. According to a high-ranking official over at the Songhai Demon Prison, the mastermind behind the whole incident is none other than the person depicted in a specific portrait. Meanwhile, Father Wang is sitting around feeling pretty depressed while scrolling through the latest rankings of the year's top authors. His personal ranking has been plummeting faster than a lead balloon, which has left his creative spark completely dead in the water. To make matters worse, his publisher is blowing up his phone with constant demands for a new chapter, pushing poor Father Wang into a state of total helplessness. The mountain of stress he's been carrying for so long has actually caused him to go completely bald, leaving him without a single hair on his head. Wang Ling and Erha are genuinely stunned to see their father's new, shiny chrome dome. Mother Wang can't help but feel incredibly sad for her husband seeing him in such a state. After all, the due date for little Nuan is fast approaching and getting everything ready. For the new baby is going to require a serious amount of cash. Driven by that financial pressure, Father Wang tries to force himself to brainstorm a new hit series, but his inspiration is still nowhere to be found. Seeing his father struggle, Wang Ling walks into the room, planning to use his powers to lend a hand. In just a few seconds, he could synthesize and download a wealth of creative ideas directly into his father's brain, but Father Wang firmly turns him down. As the man of the house, he's determined to face this challenge head-on and battle through the messy scripts on his own merit. After a night of intense but ultimately exhausting effort, he finally passes out at his desk. As a new day dawns, Father Wang is still half asleep when his future daughter-in-law, Sunrong, comes knocking at the door. Realizing that her future father-in-law is desperately seeking inspiration for his new book, she offers to take him out on a little field trip. Deciding that moping around the house isn't going to help anyone, Father Wang agrees to hop in the car with Sun, Ring and Wang Ling for the ride. The group boards a very special vehicle that Erha has cleverly transformed into. Just as they are getting in, Wang Ling gets a weird vibe, sensing that someone is watching them from a high vantage point. It turns out that a member of the Rat Squad is on a mission from the Spirit Lord to assassinate a target. But this time, his crosshairs are locked right on Father Wang. Once everyone has buckled their seatbelts, Erha floors it and heads toward the Chen family martial arts dojo. The rat assassin is left scratching his head in confusion, never expecting a bus to suddenly take flight. To make things even better, Erha accidentally rams right into the stalking rat, sending him flying into the atmosphere as a little punishment for his stalking. After a short trip, they arrive at the Chen family dojo and are warmly greeted by Old Man Chen and Chen Chao. Having heard about Father Wang's creative block from Wang Ling, they've decided to put on a display of their legendary family saber techniques to help spark his imagination for his riding. Chen Chao and his father step out onto the training grounds, each wielding a saber. With just a single effortless swing, they release powerful blades of energy that shatter massive boulders into dust, earning a round of enthusiastic applause from the spectators. Old Man Chen proudly notes that his son has made some decent progress lately, though he still hasn't quite mastered the absolute peak stage of their family's saber arts. So he asks the guests to excuse their unrefined display. Chen Chao is absolutely over the moon hearing this, and impulsively hugs Wang Ling in pure joy, finally having received some rare praise from his father. In truth, Old Man Chen is only so hard on his boy because he doesn't want the kid to grow up being arrogant and lazy. Next up, it's Father Wang and Wang Ling's turn to give it a shot. Since he doesn't have any cultivation to speak of, just lifting that heavy saber is a massive workout for Father Wang. However, Wang Ling just gives his hand a tiny flick, which instantly generates a terrifyingly powerful blast of saber energy that happens to smack into that rat spy who is still lurking in the distance. After leaving the Chen dojo, the group heads over to the Guo family zoo. Having heard about Father Wang's situation from Wang Ling, Guo Hao comes up with a brilliant plan to use spiritual beasts to help. For this particular session, he selects a high-tier spiritual creature known as the Lightning Bear to assist them. To capture this beast, Guo Hao actually had to travel all the way to its native habitat himself. His master plan involves using the controlled electrical discharges from the Lightning Bear to stimulate the body's pressure points and boost blood flow, which should theoretically make one's thinking much sharper and faster. At first, Father Wang seems open to the idea, but the second he hears that a fully grown Lightning Bear can output tens of millions of volts, he shuts that plan down real quick. Guo Hao, anticipating this, reveals that he's actually prepared a much gentler baby bear for the experiment. In no time at all, Father Wang goes from being a depressed writer to feeling like an absolute world-class scholar with a supercharged brain. He finds the shock therapy so effective that he suddenly gets brave and wants to try the full experience with the adult bear. Meanwhile, up on the roof, that persistent rat assassin is still keeping a close eye on the group. He's pretty shocked to see such a high-level spirit beast in a place like this and decides he wants to bag it and present it as a gift to the great spirit lord. Unfortunately for him, his meddling makes the baby bear start crying, which sends the adult Lightning Bear into a blind, protective rage. It immediately unleashes a multi-million-volt strike directly onto the assassin, teaching him a painful lesson about what happens when you mess with his cub. Terrified by the sudden electrical explosion, Father Wang scrambles away from the scene and jumps back into the car to head to their next stop. By now, his spirit seems completely revitalized, and he looks like a totally changed man. Later on, Father Wang stops by a wooden sword stall and starts reminiscing about the time he bought a sword for young Wang Ling years ago. But just as he starts his story, the woman running the stall suddenly lunges forward and launches a fierce attack on Wang Ling. She unleashes a flurry of dangerous stabs that forces him to actually put in a tiny bit of effort to defend himself, though she's still nowhere near strong enough to truly threaten him. With just a single palm strike, he knocks her back. It's at this moment that Sunrong and Erha realize this woman is actually the physical manifestation of Jing Kei's scabbard. Feeling a wave of guilt, Father Wang approaches her to talk things through. He admits that he feels partly responsible for this mess because all those years ago, he didn't pay enough attention to Wang Ling's feelings and accidentally failed to buy the matching scabbard for the sword. This oversight has caused these two spiritual siblings to endure the pain of being separated for such a long time. Just as they are having this heart-to-heart, the rat assassin returns with his entire squad of elite killers, and they all launch a coordinated attack on Father Wang. But right as they're about to strike, Jing Kei leaps into action and merges with his elder sister Scabbard. The two of them combine their powers, generating a massive explosion of energy that blows the entire rat squad away in a heartbeat. This fusion gives birth to a brand new form of the spirit sword known as Jingbai. The moment Jingbai appears, the sheer pressure of its aura is so overwhelming that the remaining rats are absolutely terrified for their lives. Seeing the incredible power of the newly evolved sword spirit, Wang Ling realizes he doesn't even need to lift a finger, so he just casually starts walking back home. In Episode 4, thanks to that eventful little trip, Father Wang has completely rediscovered his creative spark and successfully launched his new work to a massive reception. In less than a month, his new series has already smashed records on the charts, leaving everyone in the industry absolutely floored. Father Wang is putting his whole heart and soul into this project. He's working around the clock, pouring all his energy into writing so he can stay ahead of the schedule and keep his fans happy. For the sake of his kids, Wang Ling, and little Duan, he feels that all this grueling hard work is totally worth it. Seeing her husband pushing himself to the brink, Mother Wang tries to get him to take a break and eat a decent meal. But right at that moment, she spots a logical flaw in the complex cultivation techniques he's currently drafting in his script. So, Mother Wang sits him down and calmly explains her perspective, which leaves Father Wang completely blown away by her insight. It turns out that when it comes to technical details like this, she's actually the real expert in the room. Irha, watching from the sidelines, hasn't got a clue what they're debating, but even he can tell their conversation is on a whole different professional level. In reality, according to Wang Ling's knowledge, his mother was actually a writer herself back in the day, though she put down her pen a long time ago. Moving on to a different scene, we find Teacher Pan and Teacher Kang completely absorbed in Father Wang's latest book. Teacher Kang starts to feel a sense of déjà vu while reading, noticing that the writing style seems incredibly similar to that of his own master, the legendary monk known as the Ghost Axe Sea Spirit Mother. Years ago, Teacher Kang supposedly reached the loose Immortal stage just by dabbling in the Ghost Axe divine techniques his master taught him. However, it turns out that's all just a figment of his imagination because, in reality, he just found that cultivation manual lying on the side of the road. The book claimed that anyone who successfully learned the techniques would be automatically inducted into the sect. On top of that, Teacher Kang has heard rumors that the Ghost Axe Spear Mother once created a legendary technique that allows one to skip levels. He's always dreamed of finding and personally paying his respects to this mysterious master, but unfortunately she vanished from the cultivation world a very long time ago. Cutting back to the Spirit Lord's lair, we see that he too is deeply engrossed in studying the new novel. Even with just a quick skim, the Spirit Lord immediately recognizes that the secret techniques described in the book, the illustrations in the book clearly follow the unmistakable and eerie style of the Ghost Axe Spirit Mother. Upon making this realization, Ling Zun decided to immediately postpone his long-term plan of gathering the 5 elements of spiritual energy. He figured that kidnapping children with pure spiritual roots just to power that massive egg was taking up way too much of his precious time. On the other hand, if he could just track down the Ghost Axe Spirit Mother herself and find that young girl with the extraordinary powers, he would be able to unlock the ancient vault of the primordial cultivators. We're talking about a legendary treasure trove that houses an infinite number of high-level techniques and forbidden arts that have been lost to time. What is even more interesting is that the author of that book, the very girl he is hunting, happens to live in the same house as that deadpan male cultivator. However, Ling Zun isn't planning a direct confrontation just yet. Instead, he sends his subordinates to dig into the 60 sect. He's playing a high-stakes game of distract the East to strike the West as things shift back to the classroom. Today marks the final session, so Teacher Kang wants to introduce the class to a legendary figure known as the Ghost Axe Spirit Mother. In his eyes, she is a complete genius when it comes to developing new techniques, having used ancient celestial arts as a foundation to create the divine Ghost Axe, a truly unique style. This particular celestial method focuses heavily on mysterious and unorthodox arts. Not wanting to keep his students in suspense, Teacher Kang immediately demonstrates the technique. A massive wave of energy surges around him, leaving everyone in awe. But he doesn't stop there. With just a few simple strokes in the air, he manifests a physical axe that pulses with power. The weapon carries an incredible force, easily splitting the heavy desk in front of him right down the middle. However, after seeing it with their own eyes, many of the students actually seem a bit underwhelmed. Sure, it looks cool, but it feels like he's just drawing a picture of an axe, and they don't think it has any real combat potential. Despite their skepticism though, Teacher Kang is dead serious. He insists that everyone must master this divine Ghost Axe technique before they are allowed to graduate, which naturally causes the whole class to groan in frustration. After school lets out, Wang Ling and Sun Rong are walking and chatting when they suddenly sense a sinister presence lurking nearby. Instead of running, Wang Ling decides to play along just to see exactly what they are up to. Just as he suspected, as soon as they clear the school gates, they are ambushed by a barrage of flying daggers. Luckily, Wang Ling reacts in the blink of an eye to pull Sun Rong out of harm's way. Unfortunately for Chen Chao and Hua Hao, who were walking right behind them, they aren't so lucky and end up taking the full brunt of the assault. Sun Rong wastes no time and activates her divine Ghost Axe technique, unleashing a series of rapid strikes that easily shatter the chains and free her friends. Naturally, Chen Xiao and Guo Hao are impressed and decide to try using the technique themselves. However, the axes they summon turn out to be comically oversized, leaving them feeling a bit clumsy and awkward. While everyone is distracted, an assassin tries to launch a sneak attack, but Wang Ling effortlessly counters the move and captures him instantly. At the same time, Teacher Kang is busy dealing with his own group of assassins, though they are clearly no match for his skills. Meanwhile, out on the school grounds, things are getting even more chaotic. Other students find themselves completely surrounded by a swarm of assassins. Since most of the regular class students aren't exactly combat ready, they are overwhelmed almost instantly, and the entire group is placed under enemy control in a matter of seconds. Panic and fear have taken over most of the crowd. Yet one student finds the courage to stand his ground. A brilliant aura begins to glow intensely around him as he asks a friend to rip off his power ceiling lock. He then activates a demonic muscle transformation technique, and the chubby kid we once knew starts to undergo a massive change. He transforms into a literal powerhouse, looking incredibly strong, but unfortunately muscle alone isn't enough to win this. Before he can even land a single blow, he gets tagged by a volley of darts and collapses in defeat. Just when things look their bleakest, Teacher Kang makes his dramatic entrance, quickly untying the students and taking charge. He leads the entire group in a collective casting of the Divine Ghost Axe technique. A sea of spiritual axes is summoned, and the students charge forward together, showing no mercy as they overwhelm the assassins. In no time at all, the enemies are completely immobilized. Wang Ling then steps up to interrogate them about their true motives. The assassins try to keep their mouths shut, but Wang Ling isn't in the mood for games. Left with no other choice, he uses a subtle yet effective technique to break their will, gently forcing them to spill every single bit of the truth. It turns out this whole school attack was just a massive diversion designed to buy time for another team to kidnap Wang Ling's mother. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Wang Ling quickly asks Sun Rong to guard his physical body while he projects his spirit form, racing back home as fast as possible. Meanwhile, back at the house, Wang Ling's mother is just having a pleasant conversation when the assassins suddenly burst in. She tries to reach for her phone to call for help, but they are too fast and cut her off. Just as things reach a breaking point, a terrifying and massive amount of energy suddenly erupts from the baby still inside her womb. The power is so intense it shoots straight up into the sky, creating a violent storm that blows the assassins back like ragdolls. Realizing they've bitten off more than they can chew, the attackers try to run away, but Wang Ling arrives just in time. Together with the unborn Xia Nuan, they both activate the Divine Ghost Axe technique. They manifest the 12th level of the technique, calling forth a warrior of absolute destruction with ultimate power. A few stray bolts of lightning are all it takes to completely wipe out the remaining assassins. Afterward, Wang Ling senses something strange and takes a closer look at his mother and sister. It seems like the secret manual left nearby accidentally boosted the baby's power. It looks like having that technique book sitting right there helped Xiaonuan grow ridiculously strong. Moving into episode 5, a mysterious coffin of unknown origin is discovered in the middle of a forest, prompting Zori's team to investigate immediately. They are both stunned to find that the inside of the casket is completely empty. While they are looking, a shadowy figure suddenly taps them on the shoulder from behind. This guy shows up and immediately starts acting like he's Zori's superior, calling him son. Zori tries to use his celestial sword to attack the vampire-like intruder and save his partner, but the effort seems totally wasted. It was like trying to punch a brick wall. Even though the attack didn't do any damage, it provided just enough of a distraction for them to use a legendary substitution technique to slip away. However, this villain doesn't seem to care about them much, as his real targets are the Wang siblings. Based on the intel gathered, Joyi discovers that the man he fought last night is actually Dailon, the deputy chairman of the Nightshade organization. He also finds out that every single bit of trouble they've been having lately can be traced back to them. On top of that, Dulan's power level is in the realm of hidden masters, making it impossible to even sense his presence. Because of this, the minister decides to appoint Zhou Yi as the head of the task force investigating Nightshade. These kinds of organizations that prey on the people and harm the country need to be torn out by the roots and destroyed permanently. Meanwhile, Teacher Kang is stuck working late hours despite Nick and his constant flirting. Yesterday's attack on the school has really taken a toll on the student body. Wang Ling even had to call in sick, citing his notoriously weak constitution. Because of this, Teacher Kang decides he needs to pay a visit to Wang Ling's house tomorrow. After some digging, Nigini manages to gather some vital information about Wang Ling's parents for the teacher. Kang has a strong suspicion that the parents might actually be connected to his own master. More than anything, he hopes his master will return to restore the sect's former glory. But first, he wants a little affection to satisfy his cravings. He plans to use the home visit as a perfect cover for his investigation, and he even plans to snag an autograph from Mr. Wang for Ngay at me while he's at it. Zhou Yi passes the news along to Wang Ling the very next morning so he knows what's coming. On the surface, it looks like a simple student welfare check, but everybody knows the teacher is there to poke around and figure out the family's secrets. Wang Ling took time off because of the recent attack, but it seems like fresh trouble's already knocking on his door. Just then, Mrs. Wang brings in some fresh fruit for her son. Wang Ling takes the opportunity to ask his mother if she'd rather live a quiet, anonymous life or be a legend in the history books. Mrs. Wang just wants her kids to grow up healthy and happy, which is exactly what he expected her to say. Carrying this, Wang Ling decides to use his ultimate move to deal with the overly curious Teacher Kong. That afternoon, Teacher Kong shows up at the doorstep, heart full of hope that he might finally reunite with his master. The Wang family welcomes him inside and treats him with incredible hospitality, making him feel right at home. However, he notices that Mrs. Wang's spiritual aura seems quite weak compared to what he remembers of his master. Thinking she might just be hiding her true power, he uses the pregnancy as an excuse to check her pulse for a deeper look. He's a bit surprised when she agrees immediately, but before he can even make contact, Sunrong suddenly bursts into the room, which really ruins the teacher's mood. She's here to hang out with Wang Ling and visit his mom, and she even brought a high-end gift to score some points with her future mother-in-law. Plus, she's looking to get an autograph from the father now that his latest work has gone viral online. After Sunrong finishes her greetings, Teacher Kong tries to get back to checking Mrs. Wang's pulse. He starts to feel that excited tingle as he gets close to the truth, but then another set of guests arrives at the house, making him want to pull his hair out in frustration. This time it's Sunrong's grandfather showing up to visit his future grandson-in-law. Since he knows she's expecting, he brought a 6,000-year-old peach as a gift, and he also has a slightly shameless favor to ask. He wants an autograph from Mr. Wang, just like his granddaughter did. Since Wang Ling's dad is currently in seclusion working on his writing, the two of them have to wait a while before they can see him. Teacher Kong tries to resume his pulse-checking mission yet again. But just as he starts to feel that anticipation building up, another guest knocks on the door. Teacher Kang is absolutely livid by now. However, when he sees the Sword Saint and sect leader Hugh walking in, he has to swallow his anger and stay quiet. They claim to be there to check on Mrs. Stowe, but Kang knows perfectly well that these two old-timers are really just there to score an autograph from Mr. Wang too. Wang Ling has to apologize to the newcomers because his dad is still deep in his writing session, but they insist they are happy to wait as long as it takes. Kang tries one more time to check the mother's pulse, but before he can even get a sense of her energy, yet another guest shows up, driving him absolutely insane. This time it's Zhou Yi and the minister, and they've even used a literal UFO to deliver their gifts. With all these heavy hitters filling up the living room, Teacher Kong doesn't dare speak up. When the minister asks what he's doing there, he just plays it cool, and says he's there for an autograph like everyone else. Since everyone is just waiting around for Mr. Wang, the minister suggests they all sit down and meditate to clear their minds. They end up meditating together until the middle of the night, much to Kong's visible disappointment. But as darkness settles over the house, the Nightshade operatives finally decide to make their move. That mysterious coffin from earlier starts spewing a strange mist that turns the entire sky a deep, bloody red. Dylan steps out of the casket with a smug, arrogant grin on his face. He's convinced that tonight is the night he finally takes out the entire Wang family. However, as soon as he opens the door, his smile disappears instantly when he sees a room full of legendary masters and high-level cultivators. He tries to tell himself that he must still be half asleep and seeing things because of some dizziness. But when he dares to open the door a second time, he doesn't find the friendly faces of typical house guests. Zhou Yi immediately identifies him as the deputy chairman of Nightshade. The minister gives the order to make sure this guy doesn't disturb Mr. Wang while he's finishing his writing session. Before Dylan can even react, the Sword Saint and Zhou Yi literally kick him right out of the house. There are two golden rules in this household: never mess with Wang Ling's crispy noodles and never interrupt his dad when he's writing. Those who break these rules, like Dylan, are going to have a very bad time. After his long writing session, Mr. Wang finally comes downstairs, and he's quite surprised to see all the gifts. He's particularly excited about a box of malt milk candies and some chocolate jars. Sunrong, the future daughter-in-law, and Teacher Kong are the last two remaining. In reality, since King wasn't strong enough to join the fight against Dylan, the father decides to cheer him up with an autograph. Teacher Kong is so thrilled that he completely forgets why he even came to the house in the first place. It's a bit sad, but whatever. After running for his life, Dylan finally manages to put some distance between himself and those powerful masters. He thinks he's finally safe, but the demon child from the beginning of the movie suddenly appears out of nowhere. The child warns him that he isn't nearly as merciful as Wang Ling, and anyone who acts up is getting a one-way ticket to the afterlife. After dealing with the Nightshade deputy, the demon child simply vanishes back into the void. Meanwhile, the Nightshade leader is busy practicing some bizarre technique when he notices that his right-hand man's aura has completely disappeared. Since Dai Lan was on the verge of becoming a true immortal, this sudden disappearance is very concerning. Ling Zun is naturally curious about what happened. He tries to assign another subordinate to look into it, but seeing how terrified they are, he decides to handle it himself. Today is also the day of the Heavenly Palace Martial Arts Assembly, a prestigious event held every 4 years that brings together the nation's strongest cultivators. Leading the parade into the main arena is the previous champion, Mage Kim Dang. According to the tournament rules, any contestant who manages to win the championship 2 times in a row earns the right to challenge the strongest cultivator on the planet. In this competition, Kim Dang is widely expected to claim the title of the world's strongest with his undefeated streak. It turns out that Chen Xiao and Guo Hao are actually massive fanboys of his. Rumor has it that in the last tournament, almost nobody could even survive a single hit from him. Since the two guys are being way too loud, Sun Rong thinks about kicking them out so her future mother-in-law can rest. But since this event only happens once every 4 years, she figures a little noise is fine. Even little Wang Noan, still inside her mother's womb, seems excited about the match. Seeing this, the boys predict that she'll definitely compete when she grows up. Chen Qiao just hopes she doesn't end up like her brother, Wang Ling, whose spiritual power has been stuck at a level of 5 his entire life. This comment just makes his mother laugh. Shortly after, the minister officially declares the start of the Grand Cultivation Battle. The opening match features Kim Dang facing off against 4 other mages simultaneously. They might have him outnumbered, but they certainly don't have him outmatched in power. As the combatants fight, they release spiritual energy that is absorbed by an underground matrix. This energy is used to reinforce the seals in the demon hell, and serves as a massive power source to keep high-priority heaven-tier prisoners locked away. It's a very efficient system. When Kim Dang summons a massive hand to strike, the barrier suddenly receives a huge surge of spiritual power. Given his dominant performance in previous years, sect leader Hugh is fairly certain that he will cruise to another victory. Interestingly, there are no official records explaining the source of his power. Furthermore, his techniques bear a striking resemblance to those of the world's #1 cultivator. His fighting style is so similar that people have started calling him one-skill man, because he always wins in a single blow. Sect leader Hugh suspects he might even be the top cultivator's secret disciple. However, the minister has his doubts about the boy's origin, mostly because he can sense a deep-seated rage within him during his fights. Even if he is a disciple of the #1, nobody truly wants to spend their entire life living in someone else's shadow. At that exact moment, Wang Ling sneezes, probably because someone is talking about him. Chen Xiao and Guo Hao are dying to know more about the top-ranked cultivator, since he never actually shows up to the arena. In past matches, he would just fire off attacks from a distance and end it instantly. The last time anyone saw him was during the Great Demon War, but even then, his face was never revealed. He keeps a very low profile and clearly values his anonymity. Because of his elusive nature, the tournament committee was forced to change the rules. Now, contestants are required to be physically present at the arena to compete. The plan is that if Kim Dang keeps winning, the #1 cultivator will eventually be forced to come out of hiding to defend his reputation. As a public icon, he can't just ignore the challenge forever. If he doesn't show up, his image among the younger generation will be totally ruined. Wang Ling just listens to his friends talk nonsense about him, feeling too tired to even comment. Back when he was only 9, his father tried all sorts of talismans to keep his overwhelming power under control. Realizing that seals weren't a permanent solution, his father hoped he would find a master to teach him proper control. So, young Wang Ling decided to enter a martial arts competition online, thinking he could find a legendary teacher that way. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. Even though he was competing remotely, he was accidentally knocking people out left and right. Before he knew it, the 9-year-old was being hailed as the #1 cultivator in the world. Back in the present, Kim Dang has already cleared the field. He's been taking out every opponent with just 1 hit. At this rate, it won't be long before he officially challenges the #1. Suddenly, a new contestant who actually looks somewhat formidable steps into the ring to face him. This guy is ranked 6th on the overall leaderboard, but despite the hype, he still gets wiped out by one skill man in a heartbeat. Next up on the chopping block is sect leader Hugh himself. He missed out on the last tournament because of some business, but he's here now. Hugh was determined to take back the title, but Kim Dang isn't even slightly impressed. He's only interested in fighting the #1, not some old man, because people always compare him to the top cultivator. Kim Dang has put himself through hellish training. He carries water for 20 kilometers, does 1,000 push-ups, and chops wood 1,000 times every single day. If that isn't a One Punch Man reference, I don't know what is. All this suffering was for one single goal, a chance to face the best. Hugh gets pretty insulted by the kid's attitude and charges forward. However, Kim Dong just puts up a simple shield that renders the sect leader completely powerless. The attack even gets reflected back at him, and he barely manages to stay on his feet. Realizing he's in trouble, Hugh decides to pull out his ultimate technique. He might not have a Rinnegan, but he can still summon a massive meteor from the sky to crush his opponent. It sounds like a cool move, but Kim Dang just shatters the meteor like it's made of glass. Hugh ends up suffering the same fate as everyone else who faces the one-skill man. Back in the last tournament, people accused Kim Dang of being a fake. They said he was just trying to copy the top cultivator's image. This drove him into a rage and fueled his desire to defeat the number one to prove himself. Watching a famous leader like Hugh go down in one hit left the entire audience speechless. If our noodle-loving friend actually entered the fight, the world probably wouldn't last another 30 minutes. Back at the arena, the organizers set up a match between Kim Dang and the winner of Group B, which makes a few people in the back start snickering. There's something oddly familiar about the goofy-looking guy who won Group B. In reality, it's just a clone Wang Ling made from a single strand of hair. He just wants a quiet life, so he had Joey arrange for this clone to fight in his place. He even named the clone after his favorite brand of crispy noodles. Now, we get to see the world's second strongest fighter go up against a single hair belonging to Wang Ling. While the tournament is heating up, Juro Yu somehow ends up doing work at the demon prison. The supposed hero uses the excuse of checking the spiritual energy from the tournament to gain entry. Though he looks a bit suspicious. The guards are just low-level employees, so they don't notice anything wrong. They even use a magical mirror on him, but it doesn't reveal anything. Since the mirror fails, the fake Zuar Yi just strolls right into the control room. The staff there are a bit confused to see him, but he claims he's just there to reinforce the security protocols, and they totally buy it. He even has a Nightshade logo on his laptop, which is a huge red flag. Once he hacks the system, the prison robots fall under his control. The fake Zhuo Yi finally reveals his true identity as the leader of Nightshade, Ling Jun. The supervisors are terrified as he reveals he's there to break out a heaven-tier prisoner named Bai Jie. Meanwhile, Kim Dang is trying to end his match against the hair clone in one hit, as usual. But it's not working out for him. Despite his efforts, the clone isn't taking any damage. Kim Dang panics and unleashes a flurry of attacks, but the hair clone just grabs him by the throat. It hits him back with a tiny flick that almost knocks him out cold. Our bald buddy Kim Dang is currently flat on his back, but don't count him out just yet. He is desperately scrambling to his feet, determined to salvage whatever shred of dignity he has left. Seeing that fierce spark of fighting spirit, Wang Ling's single hair strand decides to stick around and toy with him for just a little while longer. Kim Dang puts everything he has into his famous dragon-subduing Arhat palm, but that tiny hair strand effortlessly catches the blow. It literally stops the massive impact with just a single finger now that is a serious power gap. This massive collision of spiritual energy actually makes those high-ranking bone elders giddy with joy, since the formation just sucked up enough raw energy to power everything for the next 666 years. Meanwhile, Kim Dang is standing there in total shock, unable to process how his ultimate move was neutralized so easily in a literal heartbeat. While Kim Dang is still trying to wrap his head around what just happened, Wang Ling's hair strand teleports right in front of him and delivers a punch so brutal it nearly knocks the life out of him. The hair strand actually gives him some credit, admitting that Kim Dang is quite powerful, though it does is strange he never appeared in any minor human realm battles before. Realizing he's up against an impossible wall, Kim Dang decides his only hope is to trigger his ultimate skill, the tragic past flashback. Back when he was just a kid, Kim Dang wasn't just a hard worker, he was born with the legendary all-world god eyes. His master saw this incredible potential and hoped he would use this unique ocular gift to save suffering souls across the realms. After his master passed away, Kim Dang took those words to heart and doubled down on his training, pushing his spiritual limits every single day. He spent years using those special eye powers to help everyone he could, staying strictly true to his master's final wish. On one fateful day, Kim Dang unleashed his god eyes to take on an entire demon army, but to his surprise, the world's #1 cultivator had already cleared the entire field before he even arrived. That moment became his obsession, driving him to train relentlessly without a single break just so he could eventually cross paths with that top-ranked legend for a real confrontation. However, when he joined the previous tournament, he ended up getting absolutely roasted and attacked by the online community, which left him feeling incredibly bitter and frustrated. Even though Kim Dang's core mission is to save humanity, he's tired of living in the shadow of the world's greatest cultivator. He wants his own legacy, and because of that, Qin Dong decides to charge forward for a final, desperate showdown against Wang Ling's hair strand. But here's the thing, Wang Ling has much more pressing matters to attend to right now, so the hair strand is under strict orders not to let this guy anywhere near the real Wang Ling. Why? Because this is the critical moment when Wang Ling's little sister is finally about to be born into the world. Suddenly, Wang Ling himself senses that something is going down, so he casually asks for a bathroom break, acting totally nonchalant about the whole situation. His two friends are completely baffled by his calm demeanor during such a high-stakes event, but they still promise him that they will do whatever it takes to ensure Wang Nun is born safely, while all this personal drama is happening behind the scenes, back at the Grand Magic Assembly. The self-proclaimed one-kill man has been knocked flat on his back by nothing more than a single strand of Wang Ling's hair. The high-ranking Gust Elders can't stop praising the current generation, amazed that so many incredibly powerful young cultivators are popping up lately. But the festive mood shifts instantly when news breaks about a massive prison break at Shanghai, catching everyone totally off guard. Just as the words leave their mouths, the entire arena starts shaking violently as if a massive earthquake just hit. Since he's already seized complete control over the entire ghost prison, the Spirit Lord casually strolls into the high-security Heaven-class cells without breaking a single sweat. It turns out Bai Jie has been waiting for the Spirit Lord for quite some time now, and if the Spirit Lord manages to free him, if his plan succeeds, he's promised to grant the guy's ultimate wish. Following that, the Spirit Lord immediately fires up his laptop to hack into the formation's intricate system. He brilliantly manipulates the spiritual energy, which was originally meant to reinforce the seal, and transforms it into a master key to unlock Bai Jie's prison. At that very moment, the sky above suddenly plunges into darkness, looking for all the world like a terrifying omen of the approaching apocalypse. It seems the end is truly near. Taking advantage of Wang Ling's absence, a portly henchman serving Night Ghost sneaks into the delivery room with the sole intent of eliminating Wang Ling's newborn baby sister. Chen Xiao and Guo Hao don't hesitate to step up for a fight, but the massive wave of spiritual power radiating from that fat guy is so overwhelming that it leaves everyone completely paralyzed and unable to lift a finger. With a chilling lack of concern, he uses spectral spiritual arms to knock out the obstetricians just as little Wang Nuan makes her entrance into the world. Meanwhile, Bai Jie has finally been unshackled, and he celebrates his freedom by smashing a massive hole right in the middle of the arena. This sight fills the Spirit Lord with pure joy, as he has finally succeeded in unleashing an incredibly dangerous threat back into the world. He's a truly perilous individual to have on the loose. But then, for some inexplicable reason, the sound of a baby's cry starts echoing through the air nearby. No sooner is that sound heard than Wang Nuan takes out that chubby henchman in a blink of an eye. At the same time, her big brother Wang Ling finally arrives on the scene to settle the score with that annoying Spirit Lord. The Spirit Lord is absolutely flabbergasted, having no clue how Wang Ling managed to track him down so quickly. His shock only deepens when he realizes that this formidable opponent is actually just a young kid who hasn't even managed to graduate from high school yet. Without another word, Wang Ling delivers a punch that sends the Spirit Lord flying flat on his back. While it's true he hasn't graduated, that punch proved he has more than enough power to take down a fool like the Spirit Lord. Meanwhile, Jin Deng is desperately using every ounce of his remaining strength just to stand up and keep fighting against a single strand of hair. Moved by Jin Deng's relentless refusal to give up, the magical strand of hair decides to grant him a little gift. Right then, the Spirit Lord comes crashing onto the arena stage after being launched by Wang Ling's punch. Since Jin Deng's life mission is to eradicate evil and save all living beings, seeing a major villain like the Spirit Lord appear right in front of him is a golden opportunity. Having such a villain drop right in his lap is something Jin Deng simply cannot ignore. Plus, given that the guy just got his face pulverized by Wang Ling, this upcoming fight feels like a total cakewalk and a welcome present for Jin Deng. Our favorite bald hero charges in and pummels the Spirit Lord with ease before finishing him off with a powerful R-Hat palm. Thanks to the Spirit Lord's chaotic entrance, the cultivation tournament is officially put on hold, and Jin Deng is interviewed as a brave hero who vanquished evil, completely turning public opinion in his favor. With the public finally seeing him in a new light, baby Wang Nuan has also just arrived, receiving a flood of warm wishes from her brother's circle of friends. However, the siblings are about to face a fresh threat in the form of Bai Jie, though it remains to be seen who is actually in danger. It turns out that scary, dark sky filled with thunder and lightning was actually triggered by Wang Nuan's birth. The massive storm was just a welcome party for little Wang Nuan. Today, Chen Xiao gets an unexpected summons from his father to visit the Chen family ancestral hall to pay respects to the elders. Since Chen Xiao has officially come of age, the elder Chen decides it's time to pass down the family treasure, a legendary prized blade. This sword is said to house the powerful martial soul of their ancestor. Because it holds the spirit of the Chen family progenitor, it possesses immense, raw power. If Chen Chao can successfully wield this blade, it would prove he has the ancestors' blessing. Unfortunately, the kid can't even budge the sword, and he ends up knocking over the ancestral tablets, leaving the elder Chen sighing in deep disappointment. His father is totally let down, believing that someone as weak as his son could never carry the weight of the clan's future on his shoulders. Feeling utterly dejected by his father's harsh words, Chen Chao mopes out of the hall. Just then, a flashy advertisement for a protein-focused bodybuilding sect catches his eye, sparking a new determination. That muscle-building ad literally hits Chen Chao in the face, convincing the young man that it's time to level up his physical strength. Meanwhile, baby Wang Nuan has only been around for a few days, and she's already making furniture float all over the place. Her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Wang, are losing their minds wondering why all their children are such little troublemakers. Every time she acts up, Wang Ling has to step in to soothe his little sister. After some deep thought, Papa Wang decides to give his son the mission of teaching the baby how to control her powers. The irony here is that Wang Ling himself barely has a handle on his own strength. One small slip-up from him could literally end the world. It's a dangerous game he's playing. Just as he's pondering this, the same muscle cultivation poster catches Wang Ling's attention. So the next morning, he decides to take his sister there to see if they can help her manage her abilities. Word on the street is they have the sturdiest training equipment around, so the siblings head over to check it out. They figure they'll test the gear's limits just for fun. As soon as they arrive, they're greeted by a very muscular manager. When he realizes that Wang Ling is there to sign up his literal baby sister for gym sessions, he is completely stunned. Luckily, Sun Rong happens to be a member at this facility as well. Thanks to her elite membership card, she can bring in friends and family for free, so Wang Ling and his sister are suddenly treated like royalty. Sun Rong mentions that while the equipment here is top of the line, it might actually feel a bit too light for someone as powerful as Wang Lun, though it's fine for daily drills. It should be perfectly fine for regular exercise. Suddenly, the trio overhears a familiar voice. It's their class monitor, Chen Chao. Desperate for his father's approval, he's come to seek training from Master Chenglong, despite the fact that the master was totally one-shotted by Jin Deng in the last episode. When Senglong hears him mention that defeat, he's clearly salty about it, but he can't argue with the truth. Instead, he snobbishly claims that he only accepts students who hold a prestigious black card membership. Chen Chao thinks about signing up for one to look cool, but he nearly has a heart attack when he finds out a black card costs over 1 million spiritual veins. Sunrong steps in and uses her own black card to vouch for the class monitor. To stay in the good graces of such a wealthy young lady, Changlong agrees to take Chen Chao as a student, but only if he can pass 3 specific trials. Truth be told, the old guy is just planning to use these challenges as a way to mess with Chen Chao. He wants a little payback for being embarrassed. Since the kid is poor and previously made him look bad, the master decides to set the hardest possible tasks to humiliate him in front of everyone. Oblivious to the spite, Chen Chao genuinely thinks he's being given a fair shot, so he eagerly promises to give it his absolute best. He's determined to show what he's made of. For the first challenge, Changlong tells him he just needs to make this heavy sandbag budge. It sounds like an easy win, but the bag is actually filled with 10,000-year mysterious iron sand. Anyone below the Nascent Soul stage wouldn't be able to move it even an inch. It's practically unmovable. Chen Chao starts off looking super confident, but as soon as his fist hits the bag, he's howling in pain, because the sand is harder than rock. This sight has all the veteran gym-goers laughing hysterically, mocking him for thinking he could be a disciple with such a pathetic skill level. However, baby Wang Nuan decides to give the bag a tiny tap, and it goes flying for several thousand meters. Poor Wang Ling has to zoom after to bring the bag back, and then quickly use some bricks to patch up the giant hole it left in the wall. Hearing the commotion, the master turns around to see what's going on. Luckily, Wang Ling is so fast that he finishes both tasks before the old man even has a chance to fully turn his head. Once they realize the master doesn't suspect a thing, the siblings finally let out a huge sigh of relief. Admitting that the first test was a bit much for a total newbie like Chen Chao, Changlong leads him over to the beginner section. Before starting the second trial, the master asks Sun Ron to give a quick demonstration. She jumps right in and shows off by pulling a massive 100 tons. The master looks very pleased with her performance, flexing about how his expert coaching helped Sun Rong hit this weight class in just a few weeks. Watching Sun Rong handle those massive weights with such ease gives Chen Chao a huge boost of confidence for his own second trial. He's ready to go. But as soon as he sits down, the gym staff cranks the weight pins to the maximum setting. Chen Chao strains every single muscle in his body, but those weights don't move a single millimeter. After a hilarious and agonizing attempt that nearly makes him pass out, he officially fails his second test, straining that hard left Chen Chao severely oxygen deprived. So a flamboyant manager with bright pink lips decides he needs to give him some mouth-to-mouth. While poor Chen Chao is stuck receiving that first aid, little Wang Wen sees her chance to cause some trouble. She slips out of Wang Ling's arms so fast he doesn't even notice at first. Wang Ling frantically scoops her back up, but in the process the weights slam down with a force that makes the whole building shake. The master hears the strange noise and turns around to investigate, but all he finds are three very forced, awkward smiles from the kids. After that weird moment, the group moves to the main weight room. They arrive at the special training hall where a legendary barbell sits. This isn't just any piece of metal. It was passed down by the master's own teacher and is said to house his martial soul. Only someone with truly exceptional courage and willpower has a hope of lifting it. It took that pink-lipped manager 5 whole years to finally get it off the ground. If Chen Chao can lift this, he'll definitely be able to handle his family's ancestral blade. Realizing this might be too much for the kid, the master decides to cut him some slack. He tells Chen Chao that he only needs to lift the bar up to his waist to pass all 3 trials. Pulling this bar feels exactly like trying to lift that sword back home, and the pressure is nearly crushing him. Just when he thinks his body is about to break under the strain, he suddenly feels a massive surge of power bubbling up from within. Looking around from the outside, it's quite a sight. Not only are his friends cheering him on, but even little Wang Nuang gives him an encouraging pat on the shoulder. This moral support is exactly why he feels that sudden burst of energy. With everyone behind him, Chen Chao pushes through the barbell's weight, and his entire body starts glowing like a literal star. His radiant aura is so bright, it draws in all the other curious gym members to see what's happening. Despite putting every single ounce of effort into it, Chen Chao only manages to make the bar wobble just a tiny bit. While the crowd is distracted by Chen Chao's glowing performance, Wang Wang grabs a nearby dumbbell to play with, not realizing it's mechanically linked to the bar Chen Chao is holding. The master and Chen Chao can't believe their eyes. In reality, Wang Nuan isn't just helping him lift the weight. She's actually lifting the entire building into the air. Once again, Wang Ling has to spring into action, flying outside to stabilize the structure and guide it back to its foundation. Master Changlong is absolutely ecstatic, believing he has finally found his true successor. To him, the fact that Chen Chao lifted that weight so easily is proof of destiny. He thinks his old mentor has officially blessed the boy. Meanwhile, the friends standing nearby are just forcing awkward laughs, being the only ones who know the truth. That night, Changlong is celebrating the discovery of his new heir. But before the party can even start, Baija suddenly appears out of nowhere. He ambushes Changlong from behind, instantly transforming the poor master into a tiny statue to be displayed on his umbrella. Later that night, Chen Chao proudly shows off his new black card to his father. He's convinced this is his moment to finally lift the family sword, but he ends up getting pinned under it, leading to a sprained back and yet another long sigh of disappointment from his dad. Even though little Wang Nuan has terrifying spiritual power, at the end of the day, she's still just a baby. So her dad decides to get her a surprise, a super cute bright pink sword. Mr. Wang used a chunk of the money that he earned from his latest book royalties to buy Wang Nuan a high-grade spirit sword. But the baby looks completely unimpressed. In fact, she just swats the sword onto the floor, essentially throwing her dad's hard-earned cash right out the window. Wang Ling chimes in to explain that this particular spirit sword simply won't be able to handle the massive amounts of energy Wang Nuan puts out. Poor Mr. Wang is left on the floor, painstakingly picking up the shattered pieces in hopes of getting some kind of refund. Since most kids are born with a spirit sword by their side, Mrs. Wang feels that her daughter definitely needs to have a proper one of her own. Because of this, Wang Ling decides to take his little sister on a trip to find a truly high-end spirit sword. Meanwhile, over at the demon prison, a brand new inmate has just been processed into the facility. The prisoner is already making empty threats, swearing he'll get revenge on the guards as soon as he's out. It's typical for the criminals in here to talk a big game even when they're in handcuffs. Suddenly, Bai just shows up and gifts the 2 unfortunate guards a one-way ticket to the afterlife. The prisoner initially thinks this newcomer is his savior, but Beija quickly shuts that down by slamming him into a wall. Since this guy was a disciple of the sword Immortal Fan Roy, Baija hopes to squeeze some info out of him about the demon sword. The long-haired prisoner refuses to talk and tries to negotiate instead. But Baija isn't in the mood for deals, reminding him that the weak don't get a say. In an instant, Baija finishes him off and turns the long-haired man into another decorative statue on his umbrella. With the Sword Immortal's disciple under his control, Baija summons him as a puppet and orders him to lead the way to where the demon sword is hidden. Meanwhile, Wang Ling and the dog have arrived at a blacksmith shop. The smith explains that his sister needs to spend years practicing with a sword to form a spiritual bond. Only when Wang Nuan grows up would she be able to summon a spirit from the sacred spirit realm. Thinking that waiting decades is way too long, the dog suggests they just fly into the realm and pick one out themselves. Even though the entrance is right there, it only opens once every 2,000 years. And the next opening isn't for another millennium. But Wang Ling isn't planning on waiting that long. He's got his own way. He merges the sword spirit and scabbard into one, which totally shocks the blacksmith. Even though Wang Ling's weapon is just a wooden sword, that wood is clearly on another level. When his sword spirit hears he wants to enter the realm, it just waves a hand and the barrier just pops open. This is the first time the blacksmith has ever seen the legendary sword spirit realm open so effortlessly and casually. At the same time, Baizhi has been led by the puppet disciple to the resting place of the demon sword. This cliffside is more than just the place where the disciple betrayed his master by pushing him off. It's also where the master sealed away the demon sword spirit. After a few moments of chanting, the demon sword slowly rises from the depths of the ravine, making the earth tremble. As soon as the cursed blade appears, Baizhi tosses 3 puppets at it. They latch onto the blade, making the demon sword lash out in a fury and fling them away. But since they're mindless puppets, they just keep coming back to finish their task no matter how many times they're swatted. Realizing 3 isn't enough, Baizhi decides to release every single statue puppet on his umbrella toward the demon sword. The resulting collision causes a massive explosion. Although all of Baizhi's puppets are destroyed in the blast, the demon sword is left significantly weakened by the assault. Seizing the perfect moment, Baizhi moves in to capture the sword using his ancestral umbrella. Meanwhile, Wang Ling's group is wandering through the sword spirit realm. The dog is surprised by how dark and gloomy the atmosphere is in here. The blacksmith is also terrified because she remembers this place being full of small sword spirits last time, but now they're all gone. While they're walking, a giant fireball suddenly falls from the sky right at them. The sword spirit tells Wang Ling not to worry about it, as he could probably just sneeze and change its direction. A massive dragon then emerges, leaving the blacksmith confused as to why such a hostile spirit exists here. The dragon looks incredibly menacing, but compared to Wang Ling's power, it's basically just a minor nuisance. Wang Ling spins his sword spirit like a pinwheel and launches it at the dragon. The spirit slams right into the dragon's head, knocking out several teeth and even shearing off part of its mane. The blacksmith is absolutely stunned by Wang Ling's ridiculous strength, though the dog has seen this kind of thing so often he's used to it. Once the dragon is chased off, a whole crowd of small sword spirits emerges and gathers around the blacksmith. It turns out they've been hiding in fear ever since the dragon showed up. Back at home, Mrs. Wang is busy, hanging laundry while keeping an eye on little Wang Nuan. The baby sits quietly at first, but then she starts shooting little energy beams at a passing butterfly, accidentally making a nearby plant glow. Those adorable little creatures currently surrounding Wang Ling are actually the infant forms of sword spirits. Once they've absorbed enough natural energy, they'll evolve into humanoid, plant-like, or beast-like forms. It's only because Wang Ling chased away the scary dragon that these little guys finally feel safe enough to show themselves. With so many spirits popping up at once, Wang Ling is having a hard time picking the right one for his sister. While he's debating with his own sword spirit, that annoying dragon comes back for a rematch. This time, Wang Ling directly buffs the small spirits with his energy so they can fight the dragon head-on. Among the groups of baby spirits, one of them is particularly clever. It stretches its arms out like a giant slingshot and launches itself at the dragon to knock out even more of its teeth. It doesn't stop there either. It uses its momentum to deliver an unstoppable finishing move that knocks even more of the dragon's mane off. After watching that impressive performance, Wang Ling decides he really likes this little spirit. Meanwhile, the blacksmith lady is just standing there with her jaw on the floor, shocked by one thing after another. While Wang Nuan is playing with plants at home, Baizhi suddenly makes his appearance. He immediately begins chanting to summon the demon sword, turning the sky a deep, ominous red. At that exact moment, the dragon fighting the small spirit suddenly vanishes, leaving the dog very confused. It turns out that the dragon they were just brawling with was actually the demon sword itself, because it was. Beaten up so badly by the baby spirits, it returns to Baizhi looking absolutely trashed, which leaves him in a state of shock. Meanwhile, Wang Ling asks the clever little spirit to be his sister's companion, and it happily agrees. Just as he's about to ask for its name, its entire body starts to glow intensely, indicating that it's being summoned by someone else. Back at the house, the demon sword spirit is gearing up to attack Wang Nuan, but she simply uses a blade of grass to summon her own spirit to deal with it. The spirit Wang Nuan calls forth immediately takes on a beast-human form. The demon sword spirit starts sweating bullets because it recognizes this spirit as the one that just led the group beating earlier. The newly summoned spirit uses 2 lampposts for leverage to launch an attack, forcing the demon sword to try and flee, but there's nowhere to hide from this assault. The spirit flies right through the energy sphere and delivers a devastating blow to the demon sword. Bai Ji is left completely baffled by what just happened, but he vows that there will be consequences next time. It's only when Wang Ling finally gets home that he realizes his little sister has already successfully summoned her very own sword spirit.